Okay, another basic concept is to understand how to select objects because an object has to be selected before you can actually do something to it. So again, if I was wanting to manipulate the position of this word, I'd want to grab the selection tool, which is the very top tool in the toolbar, the black triangle, and then I just click anywhere on it. This bounding box tells me that it's been selected, and then I can click, hold, and drag to move it around. When I'm finished moving it or finished manipulating it, I'm then just going to click outside of that bounding box to deselect. So select, deselect. The most common thing you'll be doing for the rest of today and tomorrow. Now you also have a couple of other techniques that you can do. For example, I can place my cursor outside of the object, click, hold, and drag. And as long as some portion is inside this dashed line that I'm creating, when I release my mouse, the object will be selected. Just a different technique. What I want you to do is go over to your toolbar, and about halfway down, you're going to see a square. Don't grab the one with the X, grab the one that's right underneath it. That's your rectangle tool. Again, it does have a little triangle on the button, which means that there's additional tools behind it. In this case, there's two other shapes, an ellipse and a polygon. I want you to choose the rectangle tool though for right now, and then simply go over here to your artboard, click, hold, and drag to create a box. Now notice as you're dragging, again, you might see some of these colored lines popping up here and there, and that has to do with those smart guides that we're referring to. So one of them you'll see will actually allow you to keep the shape as a square. The other one is going to be based on positioning. So I don't care if it's a square, rectangle, whatever, just create the box. Then I want you to grab that selection tool, deselect, and now you probably just see a blue border. And the reason you see a blue border is because this square that we just created actually has no color inside of it or on the border of it. And when that's the case, when there is no shape, no filled shape, notice when I move my cursor around and try to click, it never gets selected. But when I place my cursor on the edge of it, this little black box appears, I can click, and now it's selected. So that's just one of those little nuances that books don't technically describe, but can be very frustrating if you're experimenting with shapes that just have borders and no fill color, and you're trying to click on the inside of it, and you're like, why isn't this selecting? Well, the reason is because it won't select it. You have to place your cursor on the edge. Now, if the shape does have a fill color, so do select your shape, go over here to the bottom of your toolbar. You're going to see these two little boxes here. One represents the stroke or outline. The other one represents the fill or inside. I want you to click on the one that looks more like the solid square, even though both of them have these red diagonal lines. One of them looks like the center's been cut. That's the stroke. The other one is not. That's the fill. You need to click on that one to make sure it's at the top of those two. And then we're going to go over and find your color panel. So you should have a color panel over here in the docking station, over on the right. If you don't see it, remember, go up to the word window, color, color. So window, color, color. And then I want you to just place your cursor somewhere in this little rainbow, or what's officially called a color spectrum, and click wherever the tip of that eyedropper tool is or icon. That's the color that's going to fill the shape. Deselect, place your cursor inside of that shape, and notice now the little black triangle is, the little black square is visible on your icon. Because now that I have a color inside of that shape, I can click anywhere I want to on the shape and it'll select it. So it's just kind of one of those unique, nuanced things that sometimes you don't figure out until either someone explains it to you or you have a real life experience and it just accidentally happens. The book's not going to tell you that. All right, so we were just talking about creating shapes and then adding color and the ability to select or not select based on if the object has color. Continuing on this concept of selections for just a little bit, we can also select multiple objects by clicking on one object, then holding down the shift key and clicking on the second object. Notice the bounding box now includes both items. The other technique that you can do is starting outside of one of the shapes or objects. You can click, hold, and drag using that same technique we did previously, but then again, making sure that a portion of both the objects is inside of this dashed line, what's called a marquee. Then when you release your mouse, again, they're both selected. So just two different techniques. We're going to keep these objects on here for just a second. And let's go over and grab the ellipse tool. And this time, instead of click, holding, and dragging to draw the circle, I'm just going to click once on my artboard. That opens up a dialog box. Now, you could have also done this for the square, and you could also do it for the octagon that's over in your toolbar as well. What that does is it opens up a dialog box that allows you to type in a specific measurement. So we're going to put 2 inches and 2 inches so we have a perfect circle. Click OK. Again, by default, there's going to be no color on the stroke or inside of the object. So since we have the color panel available, I'm going to go ahead and apply color just by moving my cursor into excuse me, that color spectrum.